Hello and welcome back everyone to this live demo session on SAP UI5 and Fiori training on VS Code and Business Application Studio. In this live training, I will be your host and the trainer for this training. My name is Anubhav and I have total 16 plus years of experience with around 10 years of experience on SAP UI5 and Fiori application development. In this next 30-35 minutes, I will be taking you through the live demonstration of Introduction to SAP UI5. We will learn how to develop your first UI5 application. To join this complete course and this live training, which is starting today, please drop us an email on contact@anubhavtrainings.com. So let's look at the agenda for the demo session today. Our today's session, we are going to look at who is this training for. You can map yourself into the developer persona and understand whether this training is going to help you or not. We will talk about the overview of this training, the phases in which we will cover our training. Then we will discuss a simple demo use case, followed by live demo into the system. For today's demo session, we are going to use SAP Business Application Studio. And then we will see how to create your first UI5 application with MVC architecture into the system. At the end, we will have live question and answers along with some of the frequently asked questions by majority of you in the past. I would like to welcome all of those who have already signed up for the training and waiting for this live batch to get started, and also those who are willing to start a live training on UI5. So let's understand who is this training for. You can see here different developer persona, which will help you to relate yourself also to this particular course. So the first developer persona is UX designer, Eva Daniel. She is a UX designer and she would like to start developing productive applications. Till now, she was involved in company for the process of building UX mockups for their client. But now she would like to learn coding and learn JavaScript. Along with that, she would like to build productive UI5 application, not just mockups. Welcome, Eva. This course is going to help you. Moving next to Jenny. She is a technical advocate working in industry on technologies like AngularJS, React.js, or any other technology in software industry. She is a UI developer and she would like to venture herself into this SAP space. She got to know that SAP is moving all their user interfaces to UI5 technology. So she would like to learn UI5 to venture into the SAP space. Then we have Tina Datta. She is a college fresher, just out of college, joined an IT company or aspire to become an SAP IT engineer. This course is also going to help Tina. She will become a full stack SAP developer. And in order to become a full stack SAP developer, the journey starts with SAP UI5. Finally, we have John Brown, who's an application developer already working on SAP space as SAP ABAP consultant or any other SAP technical consultant, either portal or WebDinpro consultant. And he would like to learn how to build applications on ECC and S4HANA with Fiori user experience. So if you can relate to one of these personas, certainly this training is for you. Let's get started and understand what is the course overview, what you expect in the next 40 hours of this amazing journey on UI5 and Fiori development. Majority of you come from SAP background or ABAP background, or even just basic coding background. You do not know maybe the web development basics, so we will start first with fundamentals. In our first phase of the training, we will learn the core concepts of web development, which includes HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. Along with that, we will learn how to set up our development tool like Business Application Studio and VS Code. In the second phase of this training, we will learn SAP UI5 core concepts. We will understand the framework, so-called UI5 framework, its architecture, its components, including software development kit provided by SAP to build UI5 applications. We will talk about the best practices and also the design principles to build UI5 application, which includes model view controller architecture. We will be using Fiori tooling provided by SAP to build our application both locally in VS Code environment or into the Business Application Studio. In the next phase, we will learn about Fiori user experience. You will see how to build Fiori applications using SAP UI5 framework, where you will learn latest concepts and SAP mobile library to build amazing responsive Fiori apps. We will talk about all the important concepts like component.js, router, route match handler, application descriptor, manifest.json, and the complete application development, both using templates and freestyle approach. Finally, no application is complete without real-time data. We will learn how to develop OData services in your SAP system, be it SAP ECC or be it SAP S4HANA. We will develop services which expose your real data from your ERP system to these Fiori applications and then integrate them with Fiori app. At the end of the training, you will learn complete life cycle, starting from design, development, testing, implementation, deployment, packaging, delivering, and managing the full life cycle of an application within a multi-developer team. This is what you expect in this whole training of 40 hours. Moving next, let's understand the goal of this training. This training is designed for an absolute beginner or an ABAP developer who have never worked on UI5, aspire to transform themselves from a dialog program developer to a Fiori UX app developer. This 40-hour training is designed for you, considering that you are absolute beginner. We do not expect you to have any preconditions met or any prerequisites met to join this training. If you know some of the prerequisites, that's an added advantage, of course, for you. But at least from my side, I don't expect other than basic programming knowledge to join this training. And that's the reason any college fresher can also join this course to become a UI5 developer. Having said that, let's understand what are we expecting in today's demo. We will understand how to launch our development tool, so-called Business Application Studio. Then we will create our first UI5 project. We will utilize the Model View Controller Architecture MVC and test our application into the browser. This will be the flow of live demo into the system. But before we have the live demo, let's talk about basics of what is SAP UI5 is. So I will switch over back to the presentation mode and let's understand UI5. What is UI5 and why do we need it? So SAP UI5 is the evolution of SAP UI technology. In the past, we used to develop applications using SAP GUI dialog programs. You used to use classical ABAP by coding dialog programs in PBO and PAI. Then came was WebDynpro, which was a web development technology. But with the emergence and penetration of internet and mobile phones, nowadays, most of the business applications are consumed on mobile. At the moment, till 2013, there was no proven technology to run SAP applications on mobile phones. And that's where innovation came into the picture, and SAP introduced UI5, which allows you to build an application which is responsive and can run on multiple devices. So essentially, SAP UI5 is a framework which is used to design responsive web applications. Now you can see I have highlighted two important words in this sentence. The first word is the framework. What is a framework? A framework is nothing but collection of libraries. So actually UI5 is a framework which is a collection of library. Giving an example of a library is like SAP.m. It's a mobile library given by SAP to build SAP applications. Likewise, we have SAP UI layout, SAP UI table, and so on. We will be learning detail about these libraries in our unit number 5. Then, what is a library? A library is nothing but it's a collection of classes. What is a class? Class is nothing but it's a collection of properties, events, functions. So, a long story short, you have lots of predefined classes. We are living in 21st century. The time is gone when you used to build application and all the parts of the application you have to code by yourself. In this 21st century, we have powerful frameworks which allows you to build application with the speed of light. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or rewrite all in all logic for your application. You use these frameworks nowadays to build applications. SAP UI5 is one such framework, which is what on the basis of which we build Fiori apps. Coming to the second word, responsive. So a responsive web application, it's a web application which adapt itself according to the device. That's what a responsive web application is all about. Wow. So eventually what you expect is when you use this framework, system is going to create a application at the end, which is responsive and auto adapts according to the device. Now, I will show you how to develop your first UI5 application. To develop your first UI5 application, you need to follow below steps. The first step is we need to create a project folder. Yes. Then inside the project folder, we need to add a web app folder. A web app folder indicates the files. It groups all the files related to your UI5 application. Then we add a launch file. Remember, it's a web application. Web application always starts with a index.html file. This is our launch file. Inside the index.html file, we will do following things. So any programming language, when you start learning, what you eventually see that you will have a initialization code. So we are going to use UI5 framework. So we are going to initialize UI5. To do that, we will load the SAP UI5 framework using a special code inside the script tag. After that, we are going to create a view. In a minute, I will explain what is a view and a controller. We will then add a control inside the view, which will come from a library. So in the previous slide, I explained there's a library, and this library is collection of classes. Now, one such class is example SAP button class or image class. These are classes. These are UI controls which are projected as classes. So we will be adding the controls, the UI controls inside our view, and then we will test our application. So this is a step-by-step process and flow for building our UI5 application. And in order to do this process, we need a tool. So in the market, there are multiple tools since long time while working with UI5 application. And one such powerful tool introduced by SAP is called SAP Business Application Studio. SAP Business Application Studio is a state-of-the-art web-based application development tool which allows you to build UI5 applications. We will launch the Business Application Studio tool from PTP. I'm going to cover a dedicated lecture in the next session about how to set up your Business Application Studio tool into the system and use it for free for this learning and development purpose in the next class. But for the demonstration purpose, I have already created a Business Application Studio account. So let's switch over to our development tool. So this is like any typical development tool, like for example, SEAT you are used to. On the left, you can see all the projects, and on the right, you can see the coding area. If you are new to BAS tool, don't worry. In our next episode, I'm going to spend 1 hour dedicatedly on the development tool, its advantages, disadvantages, including how to set up this tool free in your system. For time being, it's a demo. I would like to take you through this directly. So now I will first create a project. So let's create a project now. So project is nothing but a directory. So I will create a directory. I go to terminal and run a make directory command, UI5 demo. You can see that project has been created. We can close the command prompt now. In the next step, we will add a web app folder. So let me right click and add a new folder called web app and click on OK. Now, so this is the folder where we have all the productive files. In the third step, we will create our launch file, which is called index.html. So let's create the file. And any project will always have this file to test your project from the beginning. A typical HTML file consists of two parts. One is called header and another is called body. Header is the brain of the HTML file and body is the content of the HTML file. In the header, you will eventually have all the initialization code. So let's write our initialization code in the header where we will launch and load our UI5 framework. As I mentioned, UI5 is a framework, so we need to load it. And to load it, SAP has provided an address from where we can load. So we use a script tag to load it. Like in C programming, you write studio.h and conio.h to initialize your functions in C. Similarly, this is the initialization code. I'm going to spend 1 hour on this code in our unit number 11. For time being, you just understand we are loading the UI5 framework. So I will get the URL. Along with this, we need to specify which library we would like to load. So I load data SAP UI libs equals to mobile library. We will also load a theme file, data SAP UI theme file, and I will load latest Fiori 3 dark theme. Now we will also specify to the UI5 framework that all the files related to my project are part of this web app folder. So what will be the name of this web app folder in our project? What do we recognize it as? So that you need to also tell to the system. So I know that this is web app folder, but computer don't know. So we have to specify a special parameter called data SAP UI resource roots. And this is going to be curly braces, and we say my current working directory will be named as, let's say, web app. So now we specify that our current working directory, which is for the current file index.html, is named as web app. So all the files I'm going to reference as web app in this project. This completes our initialization code for UI5 framework. Now we are going to go to the next step. We will now create a object of the view for testing purpose. So we go to the another script tag, and here we will write the logic to actually create a view object. So var, I'm creating a variable object of my view SAP UI view, and I just say the view name and the view type. So we use XML views. For your information, XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. We have a dedicated lecture on XML in unit number 14. But for time being, let's understand that this is going to be a view written in XML format. What is XML? We will discuss detail in unit 14. I will give the address. So I'll say in my web app folder, there will be a view folder, and then there will be a view called main view. But hey, I don't have a view folder. I don't have a main view. That's okay. When you run this, it's going to give us an error, which is fine. Now we will say that we want to place this view inside the body of our HTML. So we say place at, and then we will put this into the body of HTML, which is named as content. So I don't have an element called content at the moment. So let me also create an element in the body with the ID content. So this completes the initialization of UI5 framework, and then creating a view object and placing the view object into the body of HTML, because user can only see what you keep it in the body. Now, one important thing to note, what is a view? So we didn't talk about it. Let's talk about it now. So whenever you develop application, you have to follow certain standards. And one such standard is called MVC standard, so-called model, view, and controller. So we follow this standard in general to build UI5 application. It's a industry standard to build application. In industry, whenever you have user interface, you will typically use this particular standard. It's a gold standard to build UI applications on the modern framework way. So SAP also follow industry standards. So MVC is actually used all across the globe to build applications into the modern world. We will have a dedicated unit only on MVC in unit number 12, but just for understanding purpose, I will give you a simple introduction today. So model view controller stands for MVC. Yes. So we have model, we have view, and we have controller. So if you see, a view is nothing but your input output, which accept the data from the user and give output to the user. Controller is where all the processing logic is executed. So for example, I put a button and user click on this button. What should happen is written inside controller. And an application is not complete without data. So all the data is stored inside the model. So this is where we have all the data, and we have all the logic. For simplicity of this demo, We are just going to create today a view and a controller into the system. Cool. The views are written in XML format and controllers are written in JavaScript format. You will understand the basics of XML and JavaScript in this training. As it's a demo session, I will just use the skeleton, which is default given by SAP. Let's switch over back to our application now. And now we will also add a class property here called SAP UI body, which will actually help me to load the standard theme. So you see we are loading a theme. This theme will only work when we put this classification property. Let's test our application. To test it, we can right click, open and preview. So now when I preview, I see an empty black screen and nothing more than that. The reason being we created an object of the view, but technically this view doesn't even exist at the moment. And that's why it is not showing anything. So now it's time that we go and add some view and some content inside the view. Remember, the view will be added in the view folder. So we create a new file inside the folder. So we create a view folder / main view XML. This is the extension of the view. Now I will just go ahead and add the standard view definition. So we say core view class and we say SAP UI core. MVC is the library in which the view class is present. And we say my default library is mobile library. We will also mention the controller name is webapp.controller.me. This begins the definition of our view into the system. Now inside the view, we are going to add just a button. We say click me, and then when button is pressed, we will call on click action. So whenever a button is pressed, it will have a press action, which will have all the logic into the event handler. This is a function which is not yet implemented because we don't have our controller. You can see we created a very simple view skeleton. Maybe you are right now overwhelmed by this code. Don't be too confused. Just understand that it's a screen. We will detail out these 3 lines in a detailed lecture of 1 hour in unit 16. For demonstration purpose, I just created the view. You will all understand the purpose of each and every line into our detailed training. Moving next, we will create now a controller inside the controller folder. So let's create a controller folder and a file. Like any class you create in Java or C++, you have certain skeleton. For example, you create a class in C, you say class name, right? And then you will put the class properties, right? Similarly here in UI5, the class has certain pattern. This pattern is called SAP UI define pattern. So let me add SAP UI define pattern to create our basic controller class. It's a controller class, so it also inherits from a SAP standard module called SAP UI core MVC controller. So since it's an inheritance, in order to depict inheritance in a UI5 controller class, we use extend keyword. So we will say extend, and now we put our address of the controller again, webapp controller.me. This is the skeleton of a controller. We have a dedicated unit 16, where I'm going to spend 1 hour only on these 4 lines in detail. Just understand, this is the skeleton of a class in UI5. Since it's a controller class, we have to inherit from a special parent class, which is controller. Now we can write the on-click action inside the controller. It's a function. And when user click on the function, I will say, welcome to Anubhav Trainings. So that's very simple and straightforward. So what we did was create a project, create web app directory, initialize the SAP UI5 framework, create a view object, and place the view into the body of our HTML. Then we created a view with a button inside. Let's not focus on outside area because that might confuse you as you are new to UI5. And that's the goal of this training, to learn these things, the meaning of every line. My main motivation of this training is to know no copy paste policy. I will not do any copy paste of code. I will write every single line of code explaining it to you. Not like other trainers who just copy paste and show the output. You will understand the purpose and the meaning of every line. Then we have the controller where we write the logic. And when user click, this is a standard function which we trigger to show a pop-up to the user. Now it's time to test our application again. So we go back, make a small change to index file and save. It will reload our page, and wow, you got your button. Wow, nice. And when you click, it says, welcome to Anubhav Trainings. Fantastic. So in last 30 minutes, we were able to develop our first user interface into Business Application Studio using UI5. Cool. So moving on to some of the most frequently asked questions by many of you. Let me move on to those questions. What will be the duration of this training and what will be the prerequisite? So the duration of this training is 40 hours and there is no prerequisite other than basic programming skills. Second question, the timing does not suit me. So can I go with video mode? Yes, you can opt video mode training for most recent batch and ask your questions over the email. So we have video mode and live mode. Any option which is convenient for you, you can choose. However, if you're attending this live batch, after the live batch is or after the live class is complete, you will also get the video of that particular class same day. This option applies in case you want to fast track your learning and don't want to wait for existing batch to get over. You can go with complete video mode. What tools are we going to learn and use in this training? So we will be using Business Application Studio and VS Code tool. In our next class, I'm going to show you how to install these tools and get these tools absolutely free for yourself. So you can start developing application yourself slowly in this training. What about server access for practice OData? We need OData servers only in the last classes. And in session number 29 precisely, I will tell you the process to get OData server. So if you are an independent consultant working in US, Canada, don't worry. You don't need to have a company server. I will guide you with the process. But if you're working in a multinational and you already have a server, I will also guide you what to check in your company system to be able to use it for Fiori development. Will you cover the real-time scenario? Yes, we will cover end-to-end process of developing Fiori apps and finally connecting it to the real SAP data, deploy, build, and deliver the application to production system. So complete lifecycle will be covered in this training. I'm new to UI5. Can I learn? Yes, you can learn. Anyone can learn UI5 with us. This course is designed for fresher who can learn from the very basics because we will cover HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery. All the basics will be part of the course. If I miss a class, how can I refer? So each class is going to get recorded and the recording of the class will be available after the session. You can watch the recording in case you miss any session. Finally, most important, what's the process to enroll for this training? The process is very simple. You have the mail ID contact@anubhavtrainings.com. You have to just respond to this mail ID, and then we will help you to enroll for this training. We will guide you with the complete process. I hope you enjoyed this demo session. Remember, when you have a dream, you've got to grab it and never let it go. Having said that, this is Anubhav signing out. Thank you so much for taking your time today for the demo session. I hope to see you in our next class, which is tomorrow 7 AM IST on regular basis. Once again, from my entire team, a great thanks to all of you for making this demo happen. And I hope to see you in the next class. Goodbye.